in cars. I am thrilled to have everybody here. We're going to have some really good conversation. Working with our partners, our wonderful partners in Holoride, what we've worked on with them with Cosmic Chase, VR and cars in general. So any questions about virtual reality, VR in cars, the future of car technology, we are able to talk and entertain any of your questions and comments about that. If you're watching it on YouTube, make sure that you put your questions in the live chat. Our live chat moderator, Adam, thank you so much for your help. He will be there to entertain your comments. If you're watching in our Discord servers for I Expect You Die or Until You Fall, make sure that you go to the Dinner with the Devs channel, and he is watching for any questions or comments that you have there. So we always have a final question for our panelists. So we ask it first for it to ruminate a little bit in the hour conversation that we have, and then we'll circle back to it. But the question is, why should people try virtual reality in cars? So not just virtual reality in general, but VR in cars. And so that'll be an exciting question. So stay tuned to hear our esteemed panel's answers for that. But that's enough of me talking. Now you get a chance to be introduced to our panelists. And we will start with our guests from Holoride. We'll do Chris and then Patrick, and then our team members from Schell Games. So yeah, just your name, your studio title or company title, your role with the project, and we'll get started. So thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Dwayne. My name is Christopher Bellaci, and I'm in charge of business development and strategic partnerships at Holoride. My primary role is onboarding content creators for the platform. I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm the first U.S. hire, as we're based in Munich, Germany. And relative to our interfacing with Schell Games specifically, I use the project that we're working on together to demonstrate our technology to potential partners and big level IP holders like Hollywood studios. I also bring them out to the Porsche Experience Center here in Los Angeles to experience the location-based VR experience that went live a couple months ago called Cosmic Chase, also developed by Schell Games and to much fanfare here in Los Angeles.
Cool, Chris. So I guess it's me next, Patrick Dahms, Senior Director Product at Holoride. I'm responsible for the product strategy as well as the product design, particularly for a product like that. It's mostly user experience design. Particularly with the projects we are going to talk about today, or in general, I'm usually this interface between all the information and findings we have from our research internally, but also all the findings we do with Schell Games developing stuff. So it's kind of the producer position per se, but in a kind of odd manner, so to say. I've been part of the experience Chris was mentioning, Cosmic Chase, which actually started development a couple of years ago already, pre-pandemic times, as well as all the other titles we will touch base on. Thank you.
Yeah, how's it going? My name is
Ryan and then John.
Sure, yeah, I'll take it. My name is Ryan Hall. I'm a designer at Schell Games, and the pleasure of working with the Holoride team on our current project as the design director. As a design director, yeah, I'm working with Patrick and others to determine all of the creative fun bits of the game and help talk to the art team as well as the tech team to actually get things in the game running smoothly, and kind of looking at the overall user experience, everything from what do they like, what's their favorite part of the game, to how do they feel driving around in the car playing the game. That's a huge concern that we are constantly monitoring. So all kinds of fun stuff.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I'm John Pyle. I am technical director on the project we're currently working on with Holoride. What that means is engineering and all the responsibility for making sure that that the experience is performant on device, and that we're supporting the design team, and that we're delivering from the engineering side all of our big lofty promises. And so yeah, I can definitely talk details about if we get into any of the challenges and how maybe we've sort of addressed some of the technical side of making this all work.
Good stuff. And as always, here from Schell Games, marketing manager, and I get a chance to interface with both the Holoride marketing team and the Schell Games marketing team. And I work with the different of our project teams on different marketing and advertising, influencer, content creator type activities. So happy to talk about that as well. So first, let's get started. So with our partners from Holoride, I'd like to start from the very beginning. So what was the idea of adding virtual reality experience to cars or to a moving object? If you guys can give some insight there.
I would actually just jump with very far back in the day, so pre-Holoride times. One of the co-founders, Daniel, actually comes from research, automotive research, and he came just up with the idea when VR became more prominent and around the Oculus Kickstarter times, so to say, right? To say, I want to just see how this feels. I just want to see it, right? And we all have probably instant doubts, right? Like VR in a car, that must feel weird. I already feel odd just reading and typing, right? And what turns out is it actually feels surprisingly well. And so therefore it was quite a surprising experience in that regard, and that kind of sparked then this iteration. And it's like, okay, it feels great to do that. So what can I actually do, right? And particularly coming from this automotive space, motion and mobility and map, like the surroundings around you are always keen. And then particularly with all the work that's been done in this autonomous driving field, there were just like so many opportunities of saying, okay, cool, I now have this infinite canvas I have with VR, and I'm not limited anymore by the boundaries of the car interior, so to say, or the car itself. There is just something in there. And that was kind of this initial point of actually saying, okay, there's so much potential in this. We should explore it further.
And from the business aspect, at least my understanding is that, it was, level 5 autonomous vehicles are coming, and what do you do when the focus of the design of a vehicle is no longer centered on the physical driving experience, right? What's going to happen when we're not the ones in control, and essentially cars become rolling transportation devices from point A to B, right? So, and it turns out they realize, I think, that from a revenue standpoint, in-vehicle entertainment is a revenue stream, and the manufacturers have been cut out of that stream by mobile devices. Kids are on their smartphones, tablets, Nintendo Switch, whatever. Well, what do we have to offer? Well, Daniel and everybody else figured out cars have extraordinarily accurate motion data, aggregated at the inertial measurement unit, right? Well, what can we do with that? Well, VR's white hot. It's 2015, and around that time, give or take. And that's the thought experiment. Wow, you'd really have something if you could sync that extraordinarily precise motion data to a VR experience. So those from a kind of we'll call it from the business aspect, where it was the thought process.
Very cool. Very cool. So another thing about with the in-car entertainment that we found on when I was doing research for this, on the Holoride.com, please visit their site if you haven't already, Holoride.com, to see all the cool stuff that they're working on. There was this aspect of elastic content that I would love for you, Patrick, to dive in a little bit more about what that means, or what Holoride sees as elastic content, and how you guys would apply that to in-car entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a bunch of questions in one.
Yeah, right.
One well-placed question, right? Okay, so what's elastic content? at the moment you actually start to design experiences in VR in a car, you'll very quickly come to the conclusion, okay, my motion of the car is synchronized with the motion I'm having in an experience I'm right now having, right? But you, as the person who perceives the experience in VR, you are not the driver, right? So we do distinguish this, obviously. You're not the driver with the VR headset on. So everybody who potentially freaks out about this right now, don't worry, that's not happening.
Yeah, the early
That means you
testing
are not
just
in
didn't work out. Yeah.
So, so the point instantaneously kind of becomes, okay, I'm not in control of my motion in this world, right? So how can I make sure that the game I'm having is fun? And I never know, will I turn left or will I turn right? Will I just drive slowly or fast, or do I have to do stops in between, right? And we therefore created a development kit, an Elastic SDK we call it, to actually hand over tools to developers that actually analyzes the map data around you where you are based on the car's position, and helps you filter the surroundings based on tag systems or other filter processes we have, and help you tell your story in a procedural manner that adapts to different factors. Let it be the position, the speed of the car, the behavior of the car, turning left, right, etc. And this is kind of this elastic content, because we say it adapts to this journey you have, the actual physical journey you have in the car. Because let's be also frank, no matter what kind of game you want to design, it is a difference if you play the game for just 5 minutes or for 2 hours potentially on a longer road trip, right? And it also makes a difference if you travel through a world by, let's say, walking speeds in a city versus a highway speed, right? It's very different to aim at something, for example, already, right? And so like having tools that help you kind of tackle these very unpredictable scenarios, this is what we call this elastic design, so to say.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and along with that, we already have a good question from let's see, from Cilius, right? That says, how much physics is simulated for cars to be immersive?
Chris, do you want to go?
No, well, that's probably more your purview than mine.
Okay. Okay. So actually, to give a rough number, we are using more than 45 data points of a vehicle. So it's obviously, for example, stuff like the steering angle, but it's also something called wheel ticks, so the turn speed of each individual wheel, so to say. It's the position where you are, etc. Right? So there's a bunch of different things. All of those data points we kind of use, and usually in a VR experience, map those to a platform. And I particularly say it so ambiguously because we don't tell the creators what a platform shall look like. It can be literally a vehicle. It can be that you are like in VR, also in a car, but you could also be on a surfboard if you are like having a surf game as an example, right? Or you might be in a spaceship or whatever, right? And this is then one-to-one mapped exactly this behavior of the pitch, roll, yaw, etc., the speed, accelerating, decelerating, all of that. So all of those motions are super quickly synchronized with then also the tracking of the headset on its own. Right? So obviously the tracking of the headset happens for your camera tracking, so to say, in VR, right? And this platform or this potentially vehicle you are in, whatever that might be, that is then completely synchronized with the motion of the car.
Very cool. So bringing in, I might be jumping ahead, but I think that's okay. It flows with the conversation with Ryan and John. What type of issues or what type of interesting questions do you for designing or programming an experience like that do you have to take into account with all the different data points and
Sure.
using that elastic content that keep that experience going?
Yeah, I can start. I mean, first of all, like the way that it's delivered through through the SDK makes it super easy to use. So even though it sounds like a foreboding amount of data, you can basically find and hook anything you want from the game side to anything that's being tracked by the car. So, in a lot of ways, we have more information than we usually do about the player and their current experience than when we're designing traditional VR games. So it's really cool to leverage all these different things that we know are shared between players and deliver. When we talk about immersion, which was part of the previous question, it's really unlike anything that you can do just sitting in your chair or even just standing in your living room. When the world responds to the things that you're doing within it, it's an additional level of immersion that like we leverage as much as we can, right? We're always diving into the Elastic SDK and saying like, well, if we hook it to that, then it'll be based on their ride, So it's just a great like sort of feedback loop of the more data we use, the more surprising, immersive, and sort of like delightful the experience is.
Yeah, and then I'll jump in as the engineer. Then we pull back because we can't use it all, right? The system just can't process that much information. We've got more information than we know what to do with. I think the question was around simulating physics. We're not actually simulating physics. To Patrick's point, we're getting real physics and we're synchronizing with those real physics. In addition, for gameplay reasons, we will simulate physics within that world. So you can imagine there is trees that are flying by in the vehicle. You're sitting in the vehicle. There's trees in the physical world. Or buildings, we can do something with that information about the buildings coming through because we're getting the map data, but maybe we want like the bad guy to fly around the building. So we've then in Unity in the engine added physics on top of that. We've got the physics of if you're throwing rocks at the thing that's flying around, you've got to simulate those physics. So really it's the other end of the question is we're definitely getting the immersive experience almost just for free because you're in a car that's moving. The challenge here is how do we design a fun game experience and then two make sure that it's performant as because we can't do everything, right? This is not a PS4, it's not a modern game engine that's running inside your car along with this. This is all the challenges with headsets, putting information to two eyes at the same time. And so it's a fun challenge to kind of figure out how far can we pull back and then still make a fun game experience.
I'm going to quote Jesse Schell here, and he's right when he says this. He says that if you haven't done it, it's hard to understand. People immediately jump to be in a car. Oh, well, we're going to simulate the vehicle itself precisely. And it turns out yes, there are some games that would lend itself to having a car or some sort of road vehicle emulated, but that's kind of almost narrow thinking. There are lots more opportunities for the platform to be any kind of vehicle or even a vehicle-less experience, right?
Yeah, I want to play the surfing game Patrick was talking about.
That'd be pretty sweet. Yeah, let's see. Here we go. Goes along those lines about, is the development for this format completely different or close to usual dev processes? John, you kind of talked about it, like, well, this isn't like your PS4 or something, you're diving into different game engines and you're using the SDK. So is there some similarity? And then maybe Ryan, you could talk about maybe the processes of that.
Yeah, just from a purely, like the tech side, right? We're able to do all of this simulated, not in the car, right? So you're sitting in your favorite game engine, you're building, you're getting the data coming through. We're faking car data, and you're sitting at your desk and you've got the headset on, and that experience we can simulate, but it's not the same as you're feeling the forces while you're driving, and you've got to do that. You've got to then at some point take the experience and take it into the car. So there is, I think, when you compare it to the regular development experience, it's the exact same tools. It's the exact same things that you would do for any VR development. However, there's this added like level of in order to really understand what's happening, you've got to then go in your car, have someone drive you around, test, iterate, and so that iteration loop can be a lot longer. And of course, it's hard to break yourself away from the desk and say, okay, well, I'm going to go drive around for a while. And we've kind of forced our team to like, okay, we've got these dates where we're going to take as many people as possible, get in the car, and really see how this thing that we have theories about what it's going to feel like in the car. What does it actually feel like? So there's that extra step to the development process.
Yeah, and it really permeates like all creative decisions we make, right? I can say like for our current project, there are things that feel fine at our desk that feel like a suitable challenge. All right, this is maybe it could be a little harder, and then you go to play in the car, and I want to stress this: like it's not made harder by the fact that it's not a good experience in the car. The car is being in the car in VR is such a unique and like heightened experience, for lack of a better term, that you begin to like really perceive the game in a different way, and what you're used to be able to parse when you're in VR or maybe even in just traditional screen games, those rules kind of go out the window. So it has been a lot different, not just for the technical aspects of that loop and that testing loop, but the experiential ones as well. I mean, we have really rewritten what we know about like the sort of genre, the type of game that we're making as we take it into the car time and time again. And we've had some surprises, that we've leaned into, right? Like I think that's another thing that Schell has gotten very used to. How are we used to VR in a car? Well, we've done some work with Holoride, so we're starting to get used to that. Are we used to strange new pieces of technology that have their own rules? We're definitely used to that. So we are used to being not used to things in a manner of speaking. So
Good stuff. I mean, I remember whenever the studio was developing Cosmic Chase, which we're going to move in to talk a little bit about, and I think I was in the car with you, Ryan, and another one of our designers, Charlie, and I was like, okay, I'm getting in this car with this VR headset. It's going to be different, and it was an absolute blast. And so that was just me testing it. I didn't even get a chance to try the finished version, which is out now at the Porsche Experience Center called Cosmic Chase. And I believe, Adam, if you're able to, I know you're doing some stuff right now, but whenever you get a chance to put the trailer link in the chat for people to see the trailer. And on the website at holoride.com, you're able to go to the Porsche Experience Center and see what that looks like in LA. And it is so cool. It's so immersive. And Ryan is right that it's just that heightened experience that you get one of those rare chances in VR that you're moving in the exact speed that you're in the headset that you're moving in person, and it's so cool. So I want to talk a little bit about Cosmic Chase, of how it was, and please either Holoride or Ryan, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that it was introduced or at least premiered at CES in whenever we were doing things in person, and then from there it was polished a little bit and then fully released as Cosmic Chase. For Holoride, what were your thoughts going through your mind whenever like that first group of media content creators, reviewers walking onto the track and getting in that car? What was going through your minds?
That was Patrick. You're welcome to talk about it. I mean, I don't know if you were there when that happened. I have a kind of I joined Holoride last year, but I'm kind of familiar with the process. The experience at CES, that was kind of where we broke cover, and for the big wow factor, was called Rocket's Rescue Run, and it was based on the Marvel property Guardians of the Galaxy, right? and Disney was kind enough to let us use this for demonstration purposes. And at CES, they were shuttling journalists and VIPs out to Las Vegas Speedway, and the Rockets Rescue Run. It's a location-based VR experience that was designed specifically for that track, with that track's dynamics and all the rest of that. And then my understanding is, and I'm sure Patrick could speak to this better than I, is that was used as a jumping off point to Cosmic Chase, which, I mean, the first time I did Cosmic Chase was March 15th of 2020, right? It's literally the day before COVID shut the world down. And I went out to the track, the entire Holoride team was here, and I got in the car and I'd been in VR at that point for several years, and got in and was completely blown away by what an amazing experience it was. It's kind of like a VR roller coaster, but interactive. I had control, I had interactivity capability, and it was in a car and not in a roller coaster environment. So you just had one other person with you. So it's a fun experience, and like I said, now it's actually, obviously COVID delayed that it was supposed to release just a couple months after that publicly, but COVID obviously put a damper on all of that and delayed its formal release another 2 years. But it's an experience now that everybody can go and see at the Porsche Experience Center in Los Angeles here. Patrick, do you want to talk about moving from Rockets Rescue Run to Cosmic Chase?
I think you've wrapped it up quite nicely, but just in general, a few thoughts also. Why is something like this, right? And I think in those moments, it's always good to remember that, as Chris was right now saying, just a few months before that, roughly a year before that, the company was founded. Right? As a startup, you have to make smart decisions on where is your technology actually? Where is it? Like, what can you actually deliver, and what are the learnings you have to make, and how can you create still a compelling experience? And that's why particularly location-based experiences for us is a first step, where the right way to go, because obviously it just takes out a great amount of challenges you need still to solve for a final consumer facing final product for themselves, right? So for example, for experiences like Cosmic Chase, we still use computers rendering the experience, right? Like in the trunk of the car, and then you have no limitations of a mobile system John was talking about, right? Like if you work on an experience that has to run on a mobile VR headset, the constraints are significant, or the technical challenges are significant, right? That is not only in regards to the visual performance you can make, but also regarding creating elastic content. How are you efficiently able to process all the map data around you and quickly build worlds in the background? There's massive technical challenges you have to overcome. And we knew at that time, and that's now a few years ago, that we are not at that stage at that time. It will take us some time to develop the tool set there, particularly. And so we were like, okay, cool. Location-based experience is already, just from a development perspective, the right first step to go. And on the other side, also gave us the opportunity to make sure that we have a very good direct interface with folks who play it, so to say, right? Because it's not just somewhere in the world. We have no idea about the people. We actually know who comes. They can have a great time. They can give feedback about this. And so we have a very nice interface with the folks. And obviously, we didn't miss the chance to also add a global high score to the game. So luckily, also, we always can see what the high score is and how much better people get playing it the second or third time, which is quite interesting, actually, to see how quickly people get very good at these things. So that's great. And so that's why we kind of went this path with this experience right away, because it just made sense.
To me, it solved two issues that we needed that needed to be addressed. One is it's a great test bed for our technology, right? It's not the location-based VR experiences are amazing, but they're not our core business. Our core business will be our consumer-facing product, and the project, which Schell's working on with us on now, will be our anchor franchise, right? So it was a wonderful, I guess, as Patrick said, stepping stone to where we're going now. But it also, what's great about these location-based VR experiences is they're great, what I like to call VR for PR, right? You can can do very high profile things with high profile companies like Disney and Porsche and several other, big studios and big car manufacturers. So it's, we not our core business, but we love what it does for us from a business and a reputation standpoint.
Yeah, from the development side as well, what was nice is, like you mentioned, it was designed for the track, right? So obviously the promise of elastic content is that the world is your track. There is no track, right? Every experience will be and should be different. But to be able to start this, brave new world of design on a track that we knew that we could map, that we knew the twists and turns of, was a huge advantage to that development team. And it let us push things farther, test more stuff, and be more confident about the bridging technology, because you guys have obviously been working on the elastic content system since then, and it was in a great spot at the time. So again, a natural stepping stone, a great progression from both sides, really.
Good stuff. Yeah. So whenever you talk about, getting, showcasing the experience and being able to develop stuff, the equipment had to get there first, right? You had to be able to have the hardware to do it. So how, do you see the advancements of the VR hardware, like the MetaQuest and like the other non-tethered and untethered headsets that could make this experience experiences, you're working on multiple experiences for Holoride a reality. And it could be Schell Games or Holoride, whoever wants to go first. Go ahead.
I will just jump in first, and please everybody feel free to add on this. On the one side, obviously, the progress that's being made regarding performance is very important, right? As we know, we talked about this. But actually, in this particular context of the in-vehicle experiences, we have a few additional challenges to it as well. And one major challenge is safety. And another challenge is comfort. And particularly comfort in regards to social boundaries people just have, right? Of feeling occluded from everyone else in the car. And so it's not about finding the most high-end headset out there. It's not just about finding the safest or the only one that's safe, so to say. You always have to kind of find a good point in the middle between this triangle of aspects. And luckily, and that is, I think, a very fortunate situation we are in, regarding all these points, every major company is researching, and they are all working on them. And usually every company has multiple products for different of these focus points, right? And for us, therefore, that's also why we ended up deciding for launch to go with the HTC Vive Flow, because it was for us, of course, not the most high-end device when it comes to performance. Obviously, everyone just has to look at the hardware components, and everyone will see, it doesn't have the fastest processor in it. Yes, obviously, but you can wear it almost as regular glasses, which means you can put them on and you can take them off in a heartbeat. There's nothing weird to put them on. It's not that, it's weird with your hair, or depend on your hairstyle, it might become weird. No, it's just like you put it on like this, right? And also it just in that case finds a neat spot where you can say, performance is sufficient. You have to make compromises, yes, but on the other side, you have an experience a product experience, a hardware experience in particular for the headset, that just enables you to have these short experiences. Every time you're like in the car, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I just have time. I just want to do it. I just want to watch a movie. I just want to play a little game. It's not a massive setup or a massive, hurdle to start the actual experience. It's more like, oh, put it on, done. And that's why that's I think is the big advantage. It's not just the performance on the one side, and it's not the major advantage. John just has it there. Yeah. And that's kind of it. And that was it, right? And that's literally the point. I think like this, this is such a nice, this moment of I just unfolded and bam, that's it, right? And the same right now, how quickly you put it away, because it's also not such a massive device where I now have to say, okay, where do I store this, right? And so those enhancements really helped, like ergonomics, as well as the performance, of course, and optics.
And the nice part about it is that in terms of, since this is dinner with the devs and we're talking about developers, is, when I speak to developers about developing for the platform, a lot of them have come back and said, gosh, I've been wanting to develop for cars forever, but the landscape is so fractured and every manufacturer has a different approach and it's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, we take away all of that. Essentially, Holoride acts as the bridge between the content creators and the car manufacturers, and so we take care of the tough stuff like safety compliance, and so that the developers don't have to worry about all that extraneous stuff, and they can focus on what they do best, which is the creative and technical challenges associated with a new platform, and all the other, we'll call it, important but unsexy stuff. We as a platform take care of that.
Yeah, and we talk about these as I think one of the challenges we always say, it's what they came out in November of last year. They are brand new, but when you compare it to the other end of VR, they're not as beefy. But the reality is they do so much, right? When you compare it to where we were just even a couple of years ago, it's incredible the amount that I think I say on this team. I'm not gonna. I think there's a phrase, call it like a dumb box. And it's like, it's not dumb. It's like super powerful. It does so much. We always push the boundaries. We're always trying to get as much performance as we possibly can out of the VR device, and we've got to maybe pull back to compare it to something we would do with a tethered device, right? We just don't have the same amount of processing power, but something doesn't have to be photorealistic to be fun. It doesn't have to have, you don't have to push all of the boundaries of what we can do with computer graphics in 2022 again on the latest hardware to have an amazing experience. And I regularly encourage us to look at the opportunities to dial back some of the graphics for the sake of adding other things that we, when you look at like what we have available as far as processing, push on, some of the other areas, push on the physics or push on the AI or whatever we're going to push on. It's really, it's only our own perceptions about what is possible that make us a little bit frustrated sometimes that we can't do, push it as far as we might otherwise. I mean, it's really an incredible amount of things that we can do with something that literally, what's I don't even know. I think it's a pound. It's Android, it's Unity, it's all the things that everybody's familiar with. So there's no from a developer side, someone building this, there's no real challenges other than starting to think about, well, what are the specific things around VR in a car that we want to design around.
Very cool. So let's take a step back to the beginning of VR. Like, how did you guys each, first experience of VR? We were talking a little bit before the beginning of the stream of how people were first introduced to what virtual reality was or could be. So I'd love to revisit that for the public. To talk about it. And Chris, you had a good story if you wanted to go.
Yeah, actually, I have two quick ones. So the first time I tried VR was back in the mid '90s. It was at Digital Domain, which was a visual effects house, and there had been a demonstration of VR technology at SIGGRAPH, and they also had a little like a SIGGRAPH night at their location, and it was literally a 10-pound counterbalanced headset. I mean, literally, if you bent over and looked at your shoes, you'd almost fall over. And it took, at the time, 2 computers the size of small refrigerators, one for each eye, to render at close to 90 frames per second, so that you could actually experience VR, right? But it was rough in terms of the nausea and everything, but I understood the promise. But then, and so that was fun. And then obviously VR collapsed under its own weight in the mid 90s. The technology wasn't ready. But then fast forward to 2015, and I'm at Digital Hollywood Conference here in LA, and VR's everywhere. It is, the Oculus is white hot, and it's crazy. And I'm walking through the conference, and I saw a little booth that had motion capture cameras up on the wall, and I'm like, that's my background is motion capture, visual effects and animation. I'm like, I know what those are. What is this? And it was a company that's been in VR for like 10 years on the enterprise sector called WorldViz. In fact, their technology is used for Striver, if anybody knows that one, which is they're using it to improve athletic performance for quarterbacks and baseball hitters and all the rest of stuff. And I said, hey, they said, we're doing VR. You want to try it? I said, sure. And I put the headset on, and it was graphics that were reminiscent of Duke Nukem 3D circa 1998, right? Meaning totally not photoreal at all. But it was called the plank, and you literally walk into the middle of this room, and all of a sudden the floor drops away, and you're 50 feet in the air. And even though it was, like I said, very simple graphics, it felt real. It felt like you were 50 feet in the freaking air. And the guy was like, okay, now step off. And I'm like, I don't want it, and you step off and you experience the falling. So that's when I knew, that was my aha moment. This is going to really be a thing. Where's my entry point into this space? Those are my two experiences.
That's awesome. I've always heard about the plank experience. I've never done it.
I want to hear Patrick and John and Ryan's stories.
Oh, for sure.
I have to say mine was actually one of the more recent ones. So for me, it was actually the first time that I really did something with VR was when I received my Oculus Rift. I think it was like the DK1, if I recall correctly, right? The Kickstarter one. I remember being super proud of it because I received the number 74. And I was like, wow, I'm like one of the very first ones who has it, right? And I remember because I received the package and set it up instantaneously, which took forever because everything was broken, so to say. The software stack was completely trash. Anyhow, though, the first thing I did was I opened Unity and I set up a scene. And I'm not joking. I opened an empty Unity scene, imported real scale Optimus Prime mesh into it, and put my character on the shoulder of it and just jumped down. And I got so motion sick. Like, I'm not joking, in 60 seconds of experiencing this new device that I literally had to stop for the entire rest of the day, went to bed, and I could not recover until the evening. So that was my very first VR experience. It lasted 60 seconds. It's literally that. And I still don't regret it. It was still amazing. It was still an eye-opener. And I still had to say I was shocked afterwards because just seeing, first of all, how impactful even VR just could be for me, even if it was such a negative implication. But even then, I remember falling down slowly this transformer and looking around and seeing just me falling. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I would never be able to experience this in real life, and now I can. I can experience such a complete weird thing, and not just observe it, so to say. So that was my first interaction.
Good, Ryan.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't think I have a fascinating story. So I went to grad school with our CEO. My professor was Jesse here at Carnegie Mellon's grad program. So we were using all kinds of head-mounted displays. I mean, he brought anything that wasn't popular, Jesse found and brought to the classroom and made us make games with it. So we were looking at all sorts of, like, I remember using eye tracking software. This would have been, almost a decade ago now. And it was just my eyes were just spinning, because like before that, up to that point, I had just been at home on my consoles or on my PC, playing traditional games, and I'm just like, oh wow, it really is like, training with weights on, right? Like if you can make an experience in these new technologies, something you've never seen before, the whole philosophy of the program is, then you can do traditional games with your eyes closed. So, Yeah, and it's funny that as you guys are telling your stories, I can't think of the very first time I put my head into like the head mounted display thing that was like up on a bar that was being supported, because yeah, it weighed like 10 pounds or something. But whenever it was, it definitely, like many things there and anything Jesse showed me, has it totally blew my mind. So
Yeah, so I was just trying to, compare like my first experience was the Viewmaster. Like you remember that little red thing? You put that in, and as a kid, just being this is 3D, but it's not 3D. It's and that's, I mean, that's, we've come so far, and I think my Viewmaster, they always fascinated me, right? I don't think we had like one set of discs, but you'd go over to a friend's house and they'd have extra discs. But it's not interactive, and it's not motion, but to me that was definitely a thing that made me start thinking about the space. When I was taking computer graphics classes, I was just kind of sharing. There was an old set of libraries called the Cave libraries, which allowed you not with a headset on, but to actually display on projected screens. What you did have was a set of glasses that would like turn on and off between and synchronize with what you saw on the screen, which would give you this really cool 3D effect without sort of having yet the immersive technology to do what we do now. And then I too was a backer of the original Oculus, and so I got my DK1, and I think it was like an Italian scene that was like the default scene that you play, and like it was so significant. I can still remember walking around that Italian scene, like it was on a cliff, and it was but it also, I think about 5 minutes of it, and then I was sick for the rest of the day. But I knew there was something there, right? And I knew that this was definitely, for all my interest in computer graphics and in programming, this was a place where I wanted to spend some more of my time, and eventually ended up working on HoloLens, and then really doubling down on the VR side, which is what had brought me to Schell Games, was Schell's both focus and success in the VR space. It's hard to make good VR games because of all the challenges, but it's not impossible, and there are good lessons learned, and it's also a space where we're constantly learning new lessons as the hardware changes. We're coming up with new design patterns. There's a game that comes out, and we're like, oh, nobody ever thought of this before, and then a year later, everybody's using that approach. So it's just a very cool space to be in, especially if you're not chasing like AAA game development. I think that's fun for playing occasionally, but I really like the space of where we really have time to think about like what are new gameplay paradigms, what are new things we want to do with this experience. The ability to be super small or very large or play with perspective, it's just not even close to what you get when you're just on a 2D screen.
Good stuff. And Jim the Burge had, or the Burge, yeah, the Burge had a similar experience. His was the DK2. He read a 360 video viewer where he had the paint the video pixels backwards on the inside of a sphere to see the video properly. So there are a lot of fun stories, hopefully not horror stories that people first experience with VR, but people are still doing it, which is fantastic after just seeing how the tech advances. So one thing that I was kind of curious about, it, I didn't know the story of how Holoride and Schell Games like kind of met to test out the relationship of building a VR experience and working together. So I don't know who here would know that story or has have heard of it.
Not me. That was before my time.
For my time.
I think that was before all of our times, so to say. I think that is old information.
Well, I mean,
Well, I think what's cool, and Ryan touched on this too, of with Jesse and Schell Games in general, that we take very interesting challenges on to try to figure out how we can make things fun, make things immersive with new technology. So I think what Holoride is doing with the Elastic SDK. Somebody was talking in the chat about the ride coin. Like you guys are just expanding into so many different new things, which is just so cool. And I think that one of those reasons why we started working together was your attitude of trying something new and trying something innovative, of what people would think is weird. That we're like, no, I think Schell Games can work with you to make something fun. And I know, Ryan, you've been all about the prototyping with all types of different weird experiences. And so you know a little bit more than me about that philosophy.
Well, we try to be the place that people come to when they're like, I don't think we can do this. Like, well, there's one way. We could call those guys in Pittsburgh. But yeah, no, and again with Cosmic Chase, which was Rocket's Rescue, that was some of our first steps. We've been working with Holoride ever since, and at first it was something new and something unique, and now, like, I don't know how much we'll be talking about the current project, but it's a different ballgame. Like I said, we actually are like we know this stuff. Like, we're not an authority on the Elastic SDK, but we're starting to get toward that point, and we are looking at it in different ways, right? We want to keep exploring. It's not just about like, ooh, we found one thing that we can do, and we want to do that safely. Like, Schell Games generally as a company is insatiable for these challenges, right? It's like, this isn't hard enough. Like, what else do you guys got? And when we work with developers and partners, it's often like, at least we like to think, we have some indication that this is true, that we sort of lift each other up, right? Because we have a history of asking for features and just developing a communication with our partners and the purveyors of some of the technologies to push things further. Like, hey, we were trying to do this. Is there an easy way to do that? And they're like, wow, no one's ever asked how to do that before. Yeah, give us a couple of months and there will be a way to do that. So I don't know, Patrick or Chris, from your side, if you can speak to that, how far we've pushed you. Hopefully we haven't pushed too hard, but yeah.
And yeah, I actually want to take this and really want to double down on that. It's in that regard a very, very strong and long ongoing partnership in that regard. Obviously, we give you guys as early access to any functionality we have and feature and whatnot, but we get also so many ideas from you. And I have to say that started already. That is what I know. With Rocket's Rescue Run, but also continued in Cosmic Chase and progressed steadily over time. And again, as we mentioned, each project we worked on so far always pushed the boundaries a bit further. And so everybody learned, right? It's not just in regards to the on engineering side, but also in regards to how to tell stories, how to deal with the uncertainty of travels, right, and mobility, so to say. And that's kind of like, there are so many like, okay, we could actually do it this and this way, or wouldn't it be cool if we could have functionality that does that and that? And so there's huge learnings from both sides that inspire each other, which I really have to say, where everyone, I think, on Schell Games side as well as on Holoride side really appreciates. And it is still ongoing. So I don't want to bring across the impression that it's done. No. This will continue because it is such an early stage in this medium now. Not only in VR, which is still an early and young technology, but also then on top of this world-scaled experience design in VR. Because even if you took out VR for a second and just say, how do you design games or experiences that are literally world scaled? Like, not like, oh yeah, we have a game that's 60 miles by 60 miles. It's like literally the entire planet, like every time, right? So it's definitely a different design approach in that regard, which this will take time, and it's going to continue to take time to become better and better and better and more sophisticated. But luckily now we're doing this for a few years, so we luckily could already progress quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's great to have partners that are that have the same mindset as us, right? I mean, I think I left that part out, but when we're working with folks that don't push boundaries or challenge or go to the new frontiers of places, we can absolutely do that. We enjoy that work. It's all fine and good, and sometimes it's that work that helps us, establish a baseline of what people like, what's still in the taste, what's mass appeal. How can we make sure we keep 1 foot grounded in reality and 1 foot, over the horizon, which is a pretty big stretch, but we're getting pretty good at it.
So along those lines, I thank you guys for all the segues that you guys just build in for me. This is great. I want to pivot to Chris really quick. Whenever we, talk about pushing things further and looking at, different, ways to create, games or experiences. I was wondering from Chris, from your angle, the website talked about working with folks in entertainment and mindfulness, productivity, education. Is there anything in your mind from a business standpoint that's like, man, if we can figure out how to get into this vertical or that industry, that would be a lot of fun to work with those X type of company. You don't have to spill your lead gen portfolio, but is there something that you're interested in for Holoride to think about?
Well, I mean, listen, the initial demographic that we're targeting is quadrants 1 and 2, which is 13 to 25-year-old men and women, boys and girls. But ultimately, we want everyone to be. And listen, there are plenty of 40-year-old Q1 people. I've had guys get in the back seat like, I'm never driving again. My wife will drive me everywhere, and I will play this game. And so that, but obviously, we like to say, some of our catchphrases at Holoride are we make travel time count, right? Or that. So in that respect, obviously, if you're a busy person and you want to have productivity and all this stuff, that's fine. I would say initially, and since we're talking to developers, the low-hanging fruit for us initially has been, we'll call them, rail shooters, are kind of an obvious genre dovetail with the modality of the car and all the rest of the stuff. But what I would challenge all developers to do is to get away from thinking about existing console games and existing VR games and just trying to port them over to our platform, because the big winner ultimately is going to be something that's designed with a clean sheet thought and that is not directly related to either of those things, right? So I'm less interested in porting over existing ideas. Existing IP, fine, but let's adapt the IP to this brand new, amazing way of telling stories and interacting with turning your car into a rolling dark ride that interacts with the actual world, but it doesn't. It's not on a determined track. So, the games are the low-hanging fruit. Edutainment is an important category for us. And that'd be interactive, obviously, to make it better than just watching a documentary or something along those lines. But I'm willing to listen to all ideas when it comes to developing for the platform. The question is just a matter of balancing the portfolio initially, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. All right, so we got a couple more questions, so let's do these. Fear asks, sorry, Fear, I saw it early on and I missed. Fear asked, what's your favorite and least favorite thing about developing VR in cars?
Sorry, say again.
Well, I guess the most fun and maybe most challenging.
Most fun and most challenging, sure. Yeah, so I think the most fun is probably just playing. I mean, I think Chris had mentioned the first time that he tried, he was just blown away. I mean, that's certainly true of myself as well. Especially observing that iterative loop that John mentioned, you make a change to the game, you want to try a new feature, a new type of enemy or something, you put it in, and then you head into the car and just it recontextualizes the work that you've done in a big way. We found that one of our best players that was working on one of the projects, a designer who was also a player, had trouble facing off against just a single enemy when turning. And we're like, oh, is there a bug or something? It was like, well, there's nothing going wrong in the game. It was just that his the information that was coming at him was making it challenging to complete this task. And like, oh, well, we absolutely have to take that into account. So, but for me, maybe it's a tacky answer, but the challenges are the fun part, right? So I'm just going to smush those two answers together and say that like finding out behaviors and things that you've never seen before, and then adapting to them, leaning into them, not resisting them, not saying like, all right, the no turns. When you turn, the game like just goes black and waits till you go on another straightaway, welcoming those challenges and finding a way to work around the constraints and challenges is definitely the most fun for me.
Cool. And just so everybody's aware, John had some other obligations, so didn't cut him off. He had to leave. So, right. Cool. So let's. We're at time. So what we're going to do, we're going to wrap up. I'm so glad that we were able to fill up this hour. I love talking to you guys. Are Holoride and Ryan. You're always awesome. So let's do these last two questions. Future tech innovation that you are looking forward to. Patrick, you go first.
Yes, I know it might not sound like future tech, but unfortunately it is. Reliable, latency-free internet connectivity everywhere. Knowing how, particularly for us, knowing you are traveling and in transit at any given time, I have to say, knowing that you always have a connectivity available that is not limiting your experience, I think it sounds so basic, but it seems still so far in the future that it feels to me as if this is the only truly futuristic technology I'm looking forward to right now.
And for me, it's level 5 autonomous vehicles. I mean, Patrick and I were talking about this. We were promised them several years ago, or like right around this time, right? That they would be showing up, and obviously, I think we've still got a ways to go before A, the technology gets there, and B, the public acceptance gets there, right? Because it's going to be I'm sure there'll be a generational gap as to who is going to be perfectly fine jumping into a driverless vehicle versus who's going to eschew the technology. But that's what I'm looking forward to. I jumped in a car at CES this past year that was automated. They had safety guys in the front. It was a lift ride that literally like, hey, do you want to check out this? It was there for CES. Do you want to try it? And it worked flawlessly. It was great. But so I'm looking for the day when I don't need the lift driver up front and can just be in the back playing Holoride.
Yeah, I'll throw in for headset technology. I mean, especially here at Schell, we develop for all sorts of platforms. We've ported things across platforms. We've climbed through the mountains of this tech and seen it evolve. It just keeps getting more exciting. And again, when we talk about the form factor as well as the horsepower, everything is just going in one direction, and it's a great direction. So, like the stuff that we get to play on this, it's already fun, but it's only going to get more powerful, more easy to develop for as that continues to progress.
Good stuff. And we were kind of talking about this question earlier, and I totally agree with Patrick. I'm along the same lines. Like just universal connectivity, universal internet. It sounds simple, but it's really, really not. So definitely looking forward to that as well. All right. Last thing. Why should people try VR in cars? We can go around the horn again. Go ahead, Patrick.
Good question. I will. My pick is that you are the very first time able to literally experience an entire new world. You can start a game, and it's not just a particular area of an experience you're about to explore. You will literally drive through it. You will move through it. If you see a hill in the distance that might look 100 miles away, it actually is. And it will take you 2 hours to get there. This entire actual quality, the actual real world quality that kind of gets translated into your experience. This is for me something I particularly coming from gaming myself and being very enthusiastic about this is something that really compels me. It's like something where I'm like, okay, this now adds another layer for me of how I can experience the world or the story that's being told to me.
I'm going to cheat and quote Jesse Schell because it has made such an impression on me that, and I couldn't agree more. He said that, I always find that people are asking me about tactile sensations in VR. That's what Holoride is. Not only does it solve the problem of boredom in the car and motion sickness in VR, because when you sync the motion of the car precisely to the headset, it can be reduce or eliminate the motion sickness. But it's the most immersive experience you can have because your body is feeling what your eyes are seeing, and so that alone should prompt you to want to try VR in a car.
Yeah, I believe in that, and I'm actually going to say because you should try VR in a car because it's not VR in a car, it's VR with a car, right? When we're talking about the Holoride tech, the car is talking to your game. You are a part of it, right? So I even think that might be underselling it as VR in a car. It's incredible. It's certainly like nothing I've ever played, and it's on the rise. Yeah, get out there, go jump in a Porsche, head to California, or not in that order, or if you've got the money, then go for it. But
good stuff. Yeah, all of the above. Do it all. Well, guys, Chris, Patrick, Ryan, thank you guys so much, and John too. John for being on for the overwhelming majority of it. Thank you all for coming on Dinner with the Devs with us to talk about VR in-car, VR with the car. I think that is a better. I should have ran this by you, Ryan. Why did you correct me? No, but thank you all for joining. Please visit, follow Holoride, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. All their videos are great. All the information that they're putting out is fantastic. Along with us, follow Schell Games, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Subscribe to our channel, all that good stuff. Holoride.com, that's already in the live chat, but our site as well, Schell Games. We have some stuff coming up. We are going to be at Games for Change in New York. We're showing our authentic VR cooking game, Lost Recipes, and then we are going to be at Gamescom, and that's going to be a ton of fun. So if you're able to see us in Cologne, that'll be great. We'd love to see you guys there. And we have a bunch of things going on. So make sure if you haven't subscribed to your channel, subscribe, notify, or add your notification so you're able to be notified of all the videos, game trailers, all that stuff that's going on. Next month, which is like tomorrow, the end of the month, we do it every last Wednesday of every month. We're going to be talking to some of the content creators that we work with on a regular basis. So it's influencers, content creators in VR is our next topic. So we will see you next month. Chris, Patrick, Ryan again, and John, thank you so much. And we will talk to everybody later. Thank you for watching.